Alright guys, I finally got a chance to record again. I'm actually running some errands this morning, so I don't have a lot of time. But okay, so I'm trying to get into this. There's like a trail in these woods back here behind the gas station. I'm trying to see if I can find it's quiet. But first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody. The comments that I've been able to glance at have, for the most part, been overwhelmingly kind and awesome, and so much better than what I expected. You guys have really made a difference for me, because this has been a real bitter pill. It's been really difficult watching Isaac get, some modicum of respect or vindication only after he was very obviously murdered alone. In the first video, I kind of spoke as though I assumed it was suicide. That was knowing nothing about his death. My husband, like I said, told me he had jumped off a bridge. And I thought, like, a bridge, but when I found out it was an overpass into traffic, obviously nobody tries to kill themselves that way. That is far from a guaranteed death. And you're honestly really lucky if you don't just get mangled and paralyzed or something awful. So it was just kind of a huge insult and slap in the face to do that and then try to call it suicide. And that has frozen me up again, because maybe if it had been a little bit more unclear, I could have looked into it more already, but that was just such a cruel message. To say that he would kill himself by jumping into traffic. Like he was some crazy moron or something, We're not meant to think he killed himself, obviously. And I'm sorry for all the people that knew the details and heard me talking and, must have thought I was just stupid. No, I really didn't. I wasn't exaggerating when I said I looked into zero information on his death. Because whenever if I were to try, first of all, I'd have to see his face. Inevitably, there'd be a photo, and then I would have to imagine what happened to him and how scared he must have been. And that would have been hard even if I didn't know him, but knowing him, I'm nobody. I'm 5'5". I'm, a stay-at-home mom, but I have a very strange, almost like male sense of like honor and responsibility. And so for me, it's like, I feel like I didn't protect him. I know that doesn't make sense, but that's how I felt. And he felt, he just, I don't know, he kind of inspired those feelings in me. Like I wanted to protect him because he was so, in a way, like innocent. I don't know how to explain that. I mean, you would just have to know him, I guess. But I think a lot of people probably sensed that, because a lot of people, even while he was alive, were, compassionate toward him and got emotionally invested. And I think it was probably in part because they detected that vulnerability and that almost like childlike innocence that was there. So I've seen a lot of videos coming out that, and I haven't clicked on them, but you know, the gist of it seems to be that people are taking him a little bit more seriously now. And depending on who makes the video, it really makes me mad. Like, you know, see, Isaac was always open to talk to anybody. And even the people that had, you know, in my opinion, given him reason to, you know, like I felt like he should have written them off as snakes, just from even any minor degree of turning on him or siding with the vultures, like random rants of Ryan at all. You know, Isaac, at least initially when I was involved in all of it, he was so patient. Like Titus Frost, you know, and I don't know whatever developed between the two of them later on. I don't know if Isaac ever, I don't know the status of their relationship, but I know that right in the middle of all that, when, you know, Cam Hoffman came on to try to discredit Voodoo Donuts and Vegan Mikey. First of all, Isaac was so worried about Mikey, man. Like, that was like his chief concern at the time. He didn't care what anybody said about him, but he just couldn't stand people taking shots at Mikey and making things harder on him. And you know, when I, like I said last time about that interview he did with Titus Frost and Nathan on Lift the Veil, and then whoever that asshole was, the last American vagabond. Oh man, useless person. You know, he was just, you know, he never, like, when we were talking, never like wrote Dean off. Dean is Titus Frost. He thought he just was, you know, mixed up, and that it was just a misunderstanding, and that, you know, people's egos were involved, and that, you know, Dean was a good guy in it for the right reasons, and that he could like clear it all up for him, you know, just by talking to him, just like he thought with everybody. But, you know, he never said a bad word about him. Because, you know, he like a lot of these people that ended up, you know, turning on him and making baseless, nasty videos about him, these were people that, just like you and I, like, that he, you know, he watched their videos, he got information from them. And I mean, I don't know if people can really just imagine that. Like, just imagine being just like any of us who, you know, we find out the truth, and we get, you know, information from different channels, and we kind of, you know, trust them or look to them or respect them, and then we become somebody who's like a whistleblower, and, you know, really have a huge target on our back because of it. I mean, Isaac had a gigantic target on his back, and he was taking so much heat. He was taking the fall for all of us in a way in the media. They tarred and feathered the whole truth community just by their lies about him, and he walked into that knowingly, knew that was going to happen. And then, you know, those very people that you respected and had trusted, they, you know, talk shit about you and, you know, impugn your character, like, for nothing. Like, that, especially at that point, you know, in the first several months, he'd done nothing besides what? Be a little baddie in videos. Like, what do people expect? He was in Hollywood. I mean, look at the people he was hanging out with, you know? I mean, does that matter? Are we going to just be just like Pharisees to anybody that comes out? Just, you know, tear them apart? Like, oh, you know, I don't like their affect. You know, well, they seem like they might be, you know, they're a little too spastic, or, you know, they make us look bad. It's just so nasty. Never thinking about the fact that was a person. You know, Isaac was like a real person, and he was just doing the best he could. Man, when I knew him, like, he poured everything into this. Everything. More than most of us ever do. He knew he didn't have anything else. This was his purpose. Like, it gave him purpose. Please understand that. Think about your life. And especially if you don't have kids, like imagine, like before maybe you had kids and a family, right? And if you had learned all of this stuff and you'd just been kind of aimlessly, narcissistically wandering through life like most of us do these days, and then you find all this stuff out and you actually maybe have some information that could make a difference, it would give you purpose like you'd never had before. And I think it's done that for a lot of us who do have families and do have, responsibilities. And, it's given us purpose and it's pushed us toward truth and integrity. And that's what it did for Isaac. And what did he get for it? He died a horrible, terrifying death by himself. And at least from what I can tell, he did so knowing that, like in those last moments, like most people, there will be a lot of people saying it was a psyop or that he wasn't really dead, or let's say or some people have suggested, he had to pay the price because he was one of them, and they like, I don't know, some type of harikari type thing, and so I was always so afraid of just him being alone in all of this. Anyway, I know Adam Green, by the way, shout out Adam, doing great, dude. So proud of you. The only reason you're still anywhere on the internet is because God himself is protecting and blessing your channel. Just know that, and I really appreciate what you said about Isaac, on like the video you had last night, your interview. I didn't know that he was in his last posts and stuff where he was talking about Mossad and everything. That was one of the things that drove me crazy too. Like he was part Jewish or something. And I don't buy into like this whole anti-Semitism thing. I'll never call somebody an anti-Semite because you know what? In the Bible, no matter what the Jews were going through, I don't know of any time in the Bible where Moses or anybody else whined about people being anti-Semitic, because for one, it appears to me that God holds a people group responsible for the negative perceptions anyone has of them. He definitely generalizes, and I think that's probably a spiritual thing. There's principalities and things like that over different people groups. So don't get me wrong, but it's just when people would write him off because he had some Jewish ancestry that he didn't lie about, it was just so immature and ridiculous. Like, have you guys never known a Jewish person that wasn't in on the plot? And plus, he was raised Christian. His family converted. I don't know. It was just. I'm sure there's still people out there. The more that this stuff with Israel gets exposed, I'm sure the more people are gonna, insinuate things about Isaac, and it's just like, just get over it. So many of these people that say that probably have Jewish ancestry they don't know about. But Adam just, he pointed out some things that, like, I think further legitimize what Isaac was trying to do and why he possibly died. And when I knew him, like, he was never some type of Zionist, that's for sure. He was never some, like, defensive of Jews or Israel. He was open to it all. Like, he was just trying to figure it out. And he was trying to figure it out while hopefully maintaining some trust in people like Trump and Q, because, it's easy for us to judge, but he was all alone and he was taking a very big risk. And have you ever considered that maybe he just really needed to believe that? He just needed to believe there was somebody in a powerful position that was looking out for him. You know, people just try to be a little more perceptive, a little more empathetic. I don't mean to come off like look, Isaac and I were not like lifelong best friends or anything. I knew him for a relatively short time, and I had fallen out of contact with him in the last final months of his life, and I'll regret that till the day I die, because I'm certain I would have known what was going on if we had still been in touch, because that was the type of stuff he was telling me. You know, he was telling me stuff just like anytime he was maybe going to do something he thought was risky, or even just go to a new Airbnb, like anytime anything weird happened, he would let me know, I think just to have a witness. And I'm convinced now that that was why we were even put in each other's lives to begin with. Like I've said, I'm super isolated out here, the past 3 going on 4 years in the country, in a state I've never lived in, thousands of miles away from my family. Like, I don't make new friends, and he was the only person in all this time out here that I had, like, only new person I had, like, let in, even a little bit, which is why he's significant to me. Maybe some people would think, well, you know, given the scope and, you know, extent of our relationship, shouldn't have been that big of a deal, but I have not trusted anybody new especially since finding out about my best friend and her family in my hometown. He was the only person that, I mean, especially just talking on the phone. I don't talk on the phone. So, you know, there was something about him though. And, even though, you know, I didn't know him long and I didn't get to know him super well, I've always been very perceptive of, like, people. Like, I don't know what to make of this term I'm about to use, because especially in light of scripture, but it's kind of a new agey thing. But people have referred to me in the past as like an empath, and like I said, I don't really know what validity there is to all that, but I have always been like that kind of person where, like, I read people really well, and I just feel people out, and I can feel where they're coming from, and I'm not usually wrong. And so with him, not only did that allow me to, I think, get a deeper perspective into his character than maybe other people would have in the same amount of time and same, like, level of exposure, but it makes people trust me, that makes them open up to me, and I know he trusted me, and I just look back and I think, like, the whole point of it was not only to clarify the gospel to him, which, you know, I did excessively. I tried to bring it up in, like, casual conversation. I would just, you know, try to find different ways to talk about it. Not that he, you know, rejected it or anything, but I didn't want it to seem like I was evangelizing him, especially considering he you know, at least purported to believe it to some degree. But I know that because I was I was a major, like, Bible hater. Like, I hated Christianity so much. I know that if anybody can explain it to someone who doesn't understand and thinks it's all just goofy and just doesn't really get the point of it, it's me, because God himself had to show it to me in order for me to ever accept it. And so I did that, but I just bared witness to his character and who he was, and what his motives were, and I think that was so that I could share it with you guys, because I mean, I'm surprised. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of people that got to know him or, talked to him behind the scenes, like I did. Maybe they just haven't come out, but he was so open and so friendly and willing to give his number out and stuff. It just surprises me that not more people have made, I just haven't seen him maybe, not more people have made videos or even left comments about knowing him, because he was very available. And I guess a lot of people, I guess the Periscope, it served that purpose, I guess that's maybe why a lot of people didn't contact him directly or whatever, because he talked to people on Periscope all the time, which, bless his heart, that was another example of his optimistic, trusting nature, that people found a way to just, use against him. Look, like I said in the last video, I didn't like those Periscope videos either. I didn't hate, it wasn't like, it didn't like burn me up to watch him, but I just, when I would watch him, I would just get nervous, because even though I saw what he would say and do as perfectly harmless, innocent, I knew what other people were seeing, and they were, all they could think about was, well, how does this look to the straight world? How is this going to look? I don't want this guy representing me. And that's just pride. Just pride. But I would just worry for him, because you really do have to be careful what you say and how you say it. Not only because of the paid vipers that come in and try to hone in on any little weakness, and just rip you apart over it, but especially for the natural born vipers that are part of the truth community for some reason. I've gotten a couple crappy comments from, most of them came from one person that I've seen, and she started out talking about, commending me and just being pleasant. Then she moved on to talking about how Isaac had mental issues and how she hoped I had told him to get psychiatric help, which, by the way, as a former psych major, please don't get psychiatric help. Just seek the Lord. Because rarely, unless maybe you just do some CBT, some just regular talk therapy, which most insurance companies don't pay for anymore anyway, that can be helpful. You definitely don't need someone with a degree to do it, but any of these drugs, that they put people on, they don't help. They don't help. Maybe they can fill a void if you don't have Christ. But what really helps somebody with, mental issues is to know the truth. That's where our mental issues stem from, is because we don't know the truth. We don't know why we're here. We don't know who we are. We don't know who God is. So yeah, and she went on to then eventually just, I guess she got butthurt because I said something in some video about my ancestry, being a bloodline, which, a lot of people take issue with. I don't know if they think you're bragging when you say you're related to everyone evil ever in history, but most people are in some way bloodline, so it's not like a special thing to claim about yourself. It's just, I don't really know what the cutoff is. I don't know why my family was targeted. I don't know, because it's almost statistically impossible that the majority of the population isn't some way descended from one of these bloodlines, related to them. But she, went on attacking me from there, and then she said I was a liar and that I didn't offer any proof. I hadn't responded to her at all at this point. She just went through the whole span of emotions and reactions in a conversation with herself. And guys, maybe one of these days here I'll be able to present some type of evidence. I don't know. The only reason I wasn't in touch with Isaac at the time, was because all my contacts, which means also all my conversation history and all that stuff, I lost it 2 times over. First my iPhone broke, then the Android I got, that I had reestablished contact with him on, and that was, I dropped it in water, and so I lost that. I don't know how to get into my Twitter. I haven't tried super hard either, I'll be honest, but, and all I can say is, Titus Frost might be mad at me now, which, by the way, Titus, look, if you hear this, first of all, I never thought anybody would see this. I wasn't trying to dog you. I am and was really disappointed in you for taking up for Ryan, and I did think it was a prideful thing and an ego thing, because I think damn well there was no excuse for what he did, and I felt like a pissing match would lift the veil. But even in my last video, I said, like, I don't think you're intentionally deceiving anybody, and the only reason it's worth bringing you up is because I do expect better from you. But he might vouch for me that I was kind of like a go-between with him and Isaac. And I knew Isaac. Fiona Barnett would, for sure, if you could get in touch with her. And, she really only knew me by my Twitter handle. But if you were to probably point out, like, the girl that, exposed Johnny Depp, talked about there being a video of him with her male friend when he was a toddler, she would remember, because she shared my stuff a lot when she was on Twitter. But when they keep deleting us and wiping all of our accounts out, it's really hard to prove these things. If you're ridiculous enough to think that I would claim all this for no reason, like as if he's the president or something, like as if it was really hard to know Isaac Cappy, I can't help you. I'm not lying, and I know a lot of people can tell that, but I just thought I would address that. A lot of the stuff that I've shared, I never intended to provide evidence for, because especially when it comes to like my own personal account and with my best friend and her family, like, they are private people, private citizens. What am I going to do to prove any of it? The more proof I offer, the easier it will be for, anybody to figure out exactly what I'm talking about, who I'm talking about, and maybe then there will be repercussions, if I were to allow her family to be exposed by name. They are not really fond of that. Then there's a lot of victims involved in all of that down in my hometown that, it's not my place to identify them by name. The only reason I would even tell their story or what I know about them is because they are anonymous, and they won't know who I'm talking about. They won't hear of it. I hate that I had to waste time just even addressing that, but I don't know. I'm debating about like how much I'm going to moderate my comments, because on the one hand, I have nothing to hide, and I'm a very argumentative person, so I love to debate, and I rarely lose. I'm trying to think if I've ever lost, in a real debate where I know what I'm talking about, not some dumb comment flame war, but it's been difficult, just even the overwhelming and supportive comments I've been getting, seeing 100+ notifications on my home screen. I feel compelled to respond to each and every one of them, and because it seems almost impossible at this point, I've been hiding from it. And so when I see a shitty, stupid comment from somebody, like, what I worry about is the trolls it will stir up. Addressing it will, stir up trolls. Just leaving it sit, start a feeding frenzy. And I'm not, like, look, there's nothing that anybody could say that would really concern me, because I know what I'm saying is true, and, I know who I am. But it could just irritate me greatly. And the reason I haven't made videos until now is because I don't really like attention. I like to get my point across. I like to speak my mind, but it's like catch-22 because I don't like, any like excessive amount of attention, that I get in return for it. People have told me for years that I should make a YouTube channel and and I just, it's weird because as outspoken as I am and as comfortable speaking my mind as I am, I just, I don't like a lot of eyes on me. I don't like to have to, I don't really deal with a lot of people. I'm pretty reclusive. I get more and more reclusive as the years go by. And so I have to take it in like small doses. I'm sorry that I haven't responded to the comments very much. I will, I promise. It is also, I don't have a lot of time. I homeschool my 3 kids, and I have no help, but my husband works all day and I don't have any family out here. So, until he gets home, I have no, there's no babysitter, there's no, daycare. It's just all day, all night. I stay up usually late at night just to get cleaning done and stuff. And I'm still figuring it all out, how people do this thing where you don't send your kids away with strangers for the bulk of the week. It's a lost art. So, yeah, but I promise I will do my best to respond to questions and comments. It's just, it might take a little while, because you guys really deserve it. You've been wonderful and you've really restored my faith in humanity somewhat. I think I've got to go in a sec, but I think maybe the reason like my video resonated with way more people than I thought it would is because there was a lot of people that had a heart for Isaac and a lot of people that were dogged supporters of him. Please don't get me wrong. I know that there were a lot of you out there, but it just wasn't the general, the general YouTube audience, the truth community that, people had been scared off, just by all of the bullshit rumors. Nobody wants to feel like they fell for a psyop, right? And I think a lot of people just kind of needed, like, I don't know the word, not permission, but kind of like permission to have compassion for him and maybe have some respect for him, or, anything, even just land on an opinion about him because they didn't know him personally, and they didn't know what to make of him from what they did see. And that's really all I was hoping to do. I just wanted to give you guys a perspective, on the person I knew, and loved dearly. I even told him that several times. I told him, I love you. As weird as that sounds, and no, like I said,